Cold City was my lease, my telephone, my everything, and yet it was this big space that showed really well. In 1983, Richard Rhodes and I started work on a magazine called C. It was developed to be an international magazine, but also very rooted in the Queen Street West area at that time, which was very dynamic.
C was a very powerful critical voice at the time and helped us as artists support our careers. And that's what all the kind of critical magazines do.
C magazine was important for me. They put my work on the cover of the magazine. So as a very young artist, new to Toronto, it was a great boost for me. So I thank them for that.
At that time, there were parallel galleries, Mercer Union and YYZ, A Space, and some commercial galleries.
There was as many alternative spaces in Toronto as there were commercial galleries. So there was a kind of an exclusionary position going on. And at that time, I didn't have a gallery.
Eldon Garnet did a magazine at that time called Impulse.
Even when it was a literary magazine, the mandate was not to publish reviews, not to publish critical dialogue, but to publish philosophy, interviews, music in a kind of primary source.
At one point he did an ad in our magazine with the title, "The Only Other Art Magazine." He had published an edition called Cold City Fiction, which I thought was an amazing title.
Cold City Fiction was an anthology of Toronto writers. Particularly was a collection which matched the sensibility of Cold City Gallery because they didn't have the established Canadian writers. And Dyan loved the name and she asked me, can I use this as the title of a gallery? And I must have given her permission because I'm very permissive anyway. Why would I say no?
And at that time, Toronto was a pretty frosty place for artists. Other than having cheap rent, there was not a lot of infrastructure to help us out. So that was a reference to that.
Dyan had great energy, and she had a way with people.
Now Dyan is a builder. She really is a community activist, which is picked up from her participation with Rick in creating C Magazine. So she wants to be part of a community.
What I wanted to do was to put together a staple of artists who could depend on a space, but who did not have to be totally commercially driven. I made a wish list of artists that I would love to work with, to show with, and who I thought deserved to be represented. The hardest person to get to say yes. I figured out who that person was, and that person was Gary Neal Kennedy. I called Gary up and talked to him. He was in Halifax at the time, and talked for a couple of minutes, and he just said yes.
There was a connection between Cold City and C Magazine because they were physically located in the same place.
We went in, we demolished the space as a group. We built new walls, new wiring.
We all pitched in $250 and ended up with a space that in some ways looked much better than some of the commercial galleries that were developing.
Yeah, it was a cooperative effort, the design of the space.
I mean, the space helped the work. You actually started to create work that had a kind of correspondence to the space.
And we opened to a huge lineup, to excellent press. It was exactly the right time. People really wanted something like this to happen.
We were a new venue on the capitalist cultural scene, and I think we disturbed the order. I think it shocked some of the established commercial galleries in town that we were actually doing business. And John Bentley Mays gave a review of the gallery and said that we were the tail that was wagging the dog.
It reestablished the art community, having a place to go, venues to go. I mean, you just didn't miss an opening. It didn't seem like a reasonable thing to do.
The AIDS crisis was a terrible thing.
You can see it because the 80s are a place of irony and joking and good parties. By 1990, it's gone. There's no sense of irony left. The parties are getting smaller. People are dying. The seriousness is pervasive.
Can you remember what it felt like at that time?
Well, I felt like the whole cultural community was under attack at that point in time. So.
And this is, again, when Cold City went through a transition, when this kind of crisis hit.
We lost two of our very excellent artists to AIDS, Robert Flack and David Buchan.
And I missed both of them dearly, you know.
They were both very serious and very funny and very important artists of the 80s and 90s.
It is a great honor to realize that we have those works now archived in some way or another. In a way, those things you almost remember more over time, who you lost along the way. Every year we did something where we invited an artist to come in, and we also curated exhibitions. A lot of people did show at Cold City over those 13 years.
This is On the Arts. I'm Tom Fulton. On today's program, Donald Brackett reports on Cold City Gallery's 10th anniversary.
Cold City is a collective where they actually sell work. It's not a non-profit. It's just that they don't have a dealer representing them. They do it themselves. The artist-run center is Mercer Union. They're publicly funded, and they're more like a museum. They just show work and produce catalogs. Now, what this exhibition is all the members of Cold City through the years, whether they're current, past, or present. It's spread out over these two locations in quite a beautiful way.
The 10th anniversary show is kind of lost in my memory, but I do remember it was at Mercer Union in their new space on King Street, which was across from the Spadina Hotel, and we used to spend a lot of time drinking in the taxi bar. That's my memory of that time.
And I'm not a really big looking back person. I will at some point in my life. I'll take lots of time and reminisce about the things that I've done and the wonderful people I've met and the projects. But at this point in time, I'm not really very big yet on reminiscing. So the Cold City retrospective at that point was just, oh, great.
Around 1999, with a bid for the Olympics coming on, Toronto went through some serious growing pains. There was a lot of evictions all around town. I mean, I had a studio in Liberty Village for 20 years. We all got evicted. Artists being evicted all up Spadina, and a lot of galleries closing. Cold City succumbed to that. I think the will was there to keep it going, but the building sold out from under us.
When I started it, I thought I'd put these people together, we'd all do one show and it would close.
When I think of the collection of original artists, they're from all spectrums of the arts. So it was a real mosaic of Canadian art at the time. It had some times where we thought we were going to lose it. We were all ready to throw in the towel, but we kept the membership going.
Cold City is on practically everybody's CV from that period of time.